Hello, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. It is such a pleasure to be back here and to see old friends and some new faces as well. And in particular, to see so many members of our founding generation who are loyal and still here. And I can't help but single out Jerry Daniel, our founding president. Who I know is very precious to us all. So when Rabbi Kunin asked me to install him as senior rabbi of Beth David, I really felt deeply honored because we didn't know each other. He remembered us meeting long ago on occasion, but I have done many rabbinic installations, it turns out, but I always knew the rabbi. So I understand this invitation as a token of Rabbi Kunin's investment in the history and the continuity of our beloved congregation. So perhaps you are wondering, what is a rabbinic installation anyway? And what is my role? After all, Rabbi Kunin has been here for almost half a year, and I'm sure you've already been impressed by his knowledge of Judaism, his understanding of synagogue life, his fascinating variety of rabbinic experience, and his menschlichkeit. And I've also been told that he hit the ground running, and through various formal gatherings that were organized, he's already met with over 150 people. And that's just in the formal moments. I'm sure it's a much larger number than that in actuality. So why am I up here anyway? And everybody's made the tools joke, so I will skip right over that. An installation is like a life cycle event. In this case, the life of Congregation Beth David and of Rabbi Kunin. Anthropology has found that universally, life cycle events have three phases. First is separation, the change from one status to another, or really the leaving of one status. Stability is disrupted, as when a rabbi announces that they're leaving. Then there is this in-between period, the limen, from the Latin for a threshold. The congregation engages in a search and then awaits the arrival of the new rabbi. That liminal period it can feel chaotic, uncontrolled. Both rabbi and community are looking to this new stability. The new rabbi arrives and stability is reestablished. Ritual helps mitigate that liminal sense of instability by providing a structure to hold the community and the individual through the transition. For example, a couple could just go down to City Hall and get married. But most people want the symbolism, substance, and comfort that ritual provides. Often a ritual specialist guides the ritual and provides that structure through the anxiety of change. A shaman, if you will. So that's my role. I'm the shaman. Without horns. It's a thinker. You have to think about that for a minute. Okay. So, though Rabbi Kunin has already begun his work, today is the formal ritual of your accepting him as your senior rabbi. And this is a major event in the shared history of our Kehillah Kedoshah, our sacred community. After all, Rabbi Kunin is only the fifth full-time rabbi in Beth David's 60-year history. And some unfortunate shuls go through that many rabbis in a decade. The rabbinate is a demanding and wide-ranging calling. I came up with a list of some facets of this diverse vocation. I'm sure I missed something, but here it is. A rabbi is first and foremost a teacher of God's Torah in all its forms, a student, a lifelong learner, a priest, the one who officiates at worship and life transitions, a prophet exhorting his people to do what is right, a leader through word and deed, a visionary imagining a better Jewish future, a counselor sharing with troubled souls the wisdom of Jewish tradition and his own life experience, an ambassador to the larger community, a role model teaching through his personal example. And I am tempted to add, faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. It is daunting, but Rabbi Kunin has the skill, dedication, experience, and temperament to serve you well. As I said, I didn't know him before, but I did watch the interview weekend, and I was so impressed by how he handled questions in the afternoon session of that weekend. And I've since learned about his amazing and varied rabbinic career, serving congregations in Scotland, Canada, and Japan, as well as the United States. And while in Japan, he served as a mentor to the Jewish community of Indonesia, which shows his love for Jews everywhere. I've also been told that he has a sense of humor not unlike mine. And whether that is an asset, holding the installation here in the sanctuary affirms that we as a community are partners with him. So what is this relationship asked of you, the members of Beth David? First, to understand that Rabbi Kunin is a human being. I know that he will give you his best every day, but he's also a husband, a father, a friend, and a person. Let him know that you know that he is not an infinite resource. Second, let him know that you're with him and leading in these rapidly changing and stressful times. I know that Rabbi Kunin has a strong commitment to a strong laity to play a central role in the religious leadership of the congregation. And how do I know this? It's in his bio on the CBD website. And I'm serious about that. You know, you have to choose what you put on there. So that's a core thing for him. So how do you make the most of it? By continuing Beth David's history of collaborative and respective partnerships between laity and rabbi. We dream together, we plan together, and we work together. Third, each of you here, make him your rabbi. He has much to teach you both through what he does and who he is. You have a treasure. Appreciate him and learn from him. Share your Jewish lives and aspirations with him. You will grow together as a community and as Jews. And I want to say one more thing as this liminal moment, as we move into accepting Rabbi Kunin as our senior rabbi. The structure of ritual and a sense of continuity, I think, are particularly comforting amid the chaos and anxiety of this moment in Jewish history. By gathering together today, we are affirming the historical ability of the Jewish people to use ritual and wisdom, tradition, and communal bonds to bring us through all the vicissitudes of our history. So, in that vein, this is a two-part ritual of installation. The first part is yours. You have that sheet that you were given on your way in. So please read this pledge with me. We promise to honor Rabbi David Kunin as our rabbi. We promise to support him in ways that will help him lead and serve us. We promise that when we disagree with him, we will tell him personally. We will give him the opportunity for dialogue. We promise to remember he is a human being with a wife and family and is not an infinite resource. Rabbi, we ask that you teach us Torah so that we may experience God's holy presence in our midst. Rabbi, we ask to be partners in the Jewish education of our children, and you help us to create for our children a future of which we can all be proud. We look to you as our companion and our guide in the work of Tikkun Olam, making the world a better place. We look to you as our partner and our guide as we strive to be a community of chesed, umasim tovim, kindness and good deeds. May we go forward with mutual respect, kindness, compassion, and spirit in behalf of our beloved Beth David, that together we may be a blessing to our community, the Jewish people, and the world. Amen. And Rabbi Kunin, if you could come forward now, and I will formally install you with words from our tradition. Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors, source of all blessing, we pray that the rabbi of this congregation shall lead it with the blessing of your Spirit. Grant Rabbi David Kunin a wise heart, candor in speech, the courage to act decisively, and the strength to respond to every challenge with dignity. Give him a full measure of your compassion, that he may be the instrument of your ancient promise. V'natati lachem roim kilibi, v'ra'u echem de'ah v'haskel. I will give you shepherds after my own heart, who shall nurture you with knowledge and understanding. It is written in the book of Joshua that God spoke to the prophet as he was about to assume leadership of the people. I speak these words to Rabbi Kunin with the prayer that God will be with him in every task. Lo yamush sefer haTorah zeh mipicha v'agita bo yamam v'layla laman tishmor la'asot k'cho ha'katuv bo ki az tatzliach etrach checha v'az taskil halo tziviticha chazak ve'ematz al ta'arotz ve'al techat kimcha Adonai Elohecha b'chol asher tilech. Let not this book of the Torah cease from your lips, but recite it day and night so that you may observe faithfully all that is written in it. Only then will you prosper in your undertakings, and only then will you be successful. I charge you, chazak ve'ematz, be strong and resolute. Do not be afraid or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And Rabbi Kunin will now recite his pledge, and then we'll say Shehechianu, and then I know he will have some thoughts to share.
I pledge my heart and soul to the service of Congregation Beth David, the Jewish people, and God. I pledge to give the best of myself to this community, my knowledge, my passion, my devotion, and my love. I pledge I will make time for family and self-care. I pledge that I will study as well as teach, worship as well as lead, listen as well as speak, love as well as lead my people. Adonai, my God and God of my ancestors, as you renew creation day after day, renew my spirit. May my deeds reflect your glory, my thoughts lead to your service, and may I yearn for trust in you. May it be your will, Adonai, our God, that I never debase your teaching, nor misrepresent it to others, that I never utter a word to dishonor you or your people Israel. Teach me your way, and I will declare your wonders. Keep falsehood far from me. Grace me with your Torah. Protect me from emptiness. Sustain me with your teaching. May the words of your Torah, Adonai, be sweet in my mouth, and may I be your faithful partner in bringing the sweetness of Torah to your people Israel. May we, our children and the children of the house of Israel, revere you and study and live your Torah with devotion. And let us say, Amen.
And let's join, since this is a significant and happy moment for Rabbi Kunin and for all of us, in our blessing for those occasions, Shechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Shechianu, v'kiyamanu, v'giyanu, lazman hazeh. Thank you so much, Rabbi Pressman. It almost feels like with great power comes great responsibility. So this morning, Shelley had some advice for me as we were leaving the house. She said, "Speak so slowly that you'll think you're going too fast, but you're really going you're going too slow, but you're really going the right speed, and project." So as I thought about Shelley's words, I realized today I am a light bulb. Because I'm getting installed. I was thinking about this beautiful ceremony and thinking about what Rabbi Pressman was going to say, and I was a bit scared. Who knows what kinds of things will come out? But I really do appreciate Rabbi Pressman's words. I appreciate Rabbi Roller for his role in for his part in the service this morning. I want to thank all of the different people who took part in planning this event. It is greatly appreciated, and thank you, Nathan, for introducing this as well. So I really do appreciate everybody being here. I'm a bit overwhelmed. It's really wonderful, and it really reminds us how this is an event between rabbi and congregation. So in a sense, I'm getting installed, and you're really doing the installing, even though Rabbi Pressman is here representing the history of the congregation and everything that's been built and looking to the future. I was thinking, this Haftorah, by the way, and this is totally an aside, I was looking through it earlier in the week just to see what was there, and I was really struck because actually it's an amazing Haftorah for my installation, because right in the middle it says Ki Mizrach Shemesh Ad Mevo'o, something Shmi Adonai from the east the sun rises, revealing the greatness of God among the nations. I saw that this morning, and I was reminded that was actually written over the Ark in Tokyo, which is because it was really Tokyo, of course, is the furthest east congregation in the world, or one of them, and it's the land of the rising sun. So it was a perfect verse reminding us that God is present everywhere in the world, and that serving the Jewish people is possible everywhere in the world. And we made our best try in doing that, though I think we're really glad to be now settled here at Beth David. And the way that this community has welcomed us, we feel it's been amazing. We've met so many people. We had such a wonderful summer meeting people, and people's hospitality has been so great. It really says something so much about the welcoming nature of this community, and how glad Shelley and I are to be part of this community as it goes from strength to strength. I was thinking about the Torah reading today as thinking about what I was going to say. And the Torah reading has a lot of interesting things. It has the story of Isaac and Rebekah and the birth of the two twins. I'm a twin, so that sort of touched home. And then I asked myself whether am I the evil twin or the good twin? It probably depends on the time of week. And then it has the whole story of the deception, and I was really, wondering what could I do with it? And then I realized that really it's about journeys. It's about how we move in our journeys through life. Jacob is just beginning his journey as we go through the Parsha, and he's making lots of mistakes. But it's a journey, it's a spiritual journey, and he'll meet many people on the way. And as I was thinking about this, in general, in past installation talks, and I haven't given very many, but I had a trend of trying to think of a song that went with my installation. So I was thinking first, Fool on a Hill, but that didn't work so well. But I realized that for Jacob and for us, as we think about journeys, Joni Mitchell's song, The Circle Game, is really a powerful song. Because in The Circle Game, she reminds us of the processes of life and how we get older, facing new challenges. The circle goes around, and yet we move with it. So the chorus there is especially powerful if people remember it. The seasons, they go round and round. The painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return. We can only look behind from where we came and go round and round on the circle game. Building on what happened in the past as we think about building for the future. So thinking about all of the hard work of Rabbi O'Reiner, Rabbi Alpert, Rabbi Pressman, Rabbi Danzig, and I'm probably forgetting somebody, but thinking about all of the hard work of the rabbis and congregants who built this community and created such a warm and welcoming community, and thinking about how we can reach to the future. Now, I was thinking about this because in looking at Jacob's journey, I was wondering, who did he meet? Who was part of his journey? Who helped out in his journey? And I was thinking about this because one night earlier this week, as I was meditating on what I'd say, a Mishnah from Pirkei Avot came to mind, which really reminded me of what's such an important part of journeys. So this is Mishnah Pirkei Avot 1:6, and in it, Yoshua ben Prachia says, Amar, Asali Rav u'kenei lecha chaver. So find yourself a rabbi, and also acquire for yourself a friend. Now, I know who my friend is. So Shelley has been on this journey with me for quite a long time, and it's been a wonderful thing to have her as part of my journey, and really that we can grow together from strength to strength. But then I was thinking about all of the rabbis that were there on my journey. Now here, I'm a New Yorker. I don't think that's a surprise. But as a New Yorker, we have a term my father was a civil servant in the state government. He worked for the Division of Human Rights. And in state government, and probably the city government in New York, you have the people who are lower echelons of the civil service. They often have rabbis who are there, who are from the upper echelons of civil service. In British terms, we might call them mandarins. And these are the people who help them in their career, offer them advice, and provide guidance. So I'm using rabbi in that term. New York is a very Jewish state in some ways. So who are the rabbis, some literal and not, who brought me to this place, and what have I learned from them? And that's what I want to think about today, because they were on my journey. They were there helping guide me as I moved through my spiritual journey. Now, before I get to mine, I do want to think about Jacob for a second. His rabbis were not so good. He had his parents who were a bit manipulative, as we saw. He had a bad relationship with his brother. He had Lavan, who was not exactly the ideal father-in-law. And he had his wives, and they, I'm sure, provided him strength, though sadly Rachel died early. But no doubt they provided strength, especially in his extremely troublesome family. But finally, he had that angel at the end, and maybe that companion was himself as he wrestled and finally reached towards a spiritual connection with God and himself, thus having his name changed. So he had guidance on his journey. So what was the guidance on my journey? Where did I find rabbis and acquire them to help me to be a better rabbi, to help me to be a better person? So I came to Judaism late in life. I was 13 before I really valued and became and connected with a synagogue. My parents were secular, and so that we lived near a synagogue, but I'd never been in one, at least till I was 12 and started going to bar mitzvahs. So then I finally decided, this sounds interesting. Probably there was a bit of rebellion. And so I said, I'm going to go to that synagogue and see what's going on there. And they were amazing. So my first rabbi was a woman named Sheila Phillips, who was the principal of this Hebrew school at that time. So here, a little boy coming, and he says, I want to be in the Hebrew school. First, I think there was no doubt shock. Whoever wants to be in a Hebrew school? But then she said, great, come take some classes. Come see what it's like. You can be part of our Hebrew school. And they didn't actually bill my parents for a year. Then when we became a bar mitzvah a bit late, my twin brother came down a little bit after I did, and we had a joint bar mitzvah. And finally, then they said, yeah, your parents have to join. My mother then became president of the synagogue, worked for Women of Reformed Judaism and NCJW, and the rest is history. But that welcome allowed for all of that. It actually transformed my life and my mother's life. She had been very active, by the way, in a very similar story when she was younger. And then when she married my father, who still is to this day amazingly secular and very anti-religion, she reconnected through Seth and me, and thus became synagogue president, now a past president, and did so much in working for the Jewish world. So a little gesture when we say you're welcome to our congregation can have amazing ramifications, not only for children, but for adults, for people who are seeking Judaism, for families younger and older, with kids younger and older. We need to make sure that they're welcome, just as Sheila welcomed me, because it can transform Judaism. It can transform the world. The rabbi of that congregation also was one of my rabbis, literally. Rabbi Michael Robinson was from the South. He spoke Hebrew with a Southern accent that was hard to understand. But he was an amazing advocate for social justice, marching with Martin Luther King, active in the anti-war movement, active in the anti-bomb movement. Any movement you could think of, he was there, and he was a powerful voice. And he taught me about a prophetic voice that can transform the world, that Judaism is about tikkun olam, l'teken olam b'malchut Shaddai, and that made a very important difference for me. It said, this is what religion is about. It's not about the status quo. It's not an opiate maintaining the status quo, but instead, it's for transformation. It's for building a better world. I have to admit, though, probably at 12, I didn't know about opiates. Either real or Marxian. Marxist? Marxist. So Rabbi Robinson helped to give me that model of rabbi. And then I read another book, and this is a rabbi I never met, but I read The Chosen by Chaim Potok, and that also transformed me in a different way. Potok showed rabbis who were deeply committed to Judaism. Rabbi Robinson was a Reform rabbi, so his Judaism was radically different from in The Chosen, especially for Danny. And it also showed a love of Jewish learning. And for me, that was the other side of the rabbinate that I needed, and those became my model of what a rabbi can be. A rabbi can transform the world with working with his or her community, because you can't do it alone. A rabbi can be a teacher and a student, as together we study and learn about our tradition. And I've loved to do that here, as we have a Torah study, the Talmud study that's been going on for Yanks, and also the ongoing lectures at night, and other classes, Rabbi Roller's class on drama through prayer, and other wonderful programs. We're constantly learning in this congregation, and you embraced it long before I came here, and I'm glad to be part of it. So those were the two aspects of what the rabbinate was. And here also I would mention Iris's work, Robin's work, and other people's work in transforming the world and thinking about our responsibility towards others. Also, are great models for me as we think about what Judaism can be for the present and for the future. So who are some of my other rabbis? Well, when I went to the seminary, there were two professors, Neil Gilman and Joel Roth, who were very prominent in the seminary, and they never agreed on anything, pretty much. So what they taught me was machlochet l'shem shemayim, arguments for the sake of heaven. That in Judaism, we're not always going to agree, but when we disagree, we remember that our arguments are about transforming the world. Our arguments are built on our love for Torah and our love for God, and if we learn to hear each other's voices, then we can build together a stronger and better Judaism. But it's all built on respect. It's all built on caring for Torah and trying to build a better world under God. L'teken olam b'malchut Shaddai. So they were so important to me, and they also gave me a model of how I look at the world, both within Judaism, but looking at the broader interfaith world. That we have many, many different voices, and we all are working l'shem shemayim, hoping together to try to build a better world. We're not always going to agree, but at least we need to remember that we're working together to build a better world. And I'm just going to jump ahead to another rabbi of mine who was a Buddhist priest in Tokyo. He was a Buddhist priest who taught that even through the simple act of cleaning, we can find God's presence. That God's presence is in everything we do. So he actually had become famous because he wrote a whole book about cleaning as a spiritual act. I must admit, I never could quite buy that, because I'm not great at cleaning. But maybe for me, cooking becomes a spiritual act, similar to what he meant by cleaning. But he also told me the story of the blind man and the elephant, reminding me of a multiplicity of perspectives, reminding me of a multiplicity of points of view. And the story, I'm going to just share it briefly. A king takes blind men, puts them in front of an elephant, asks them to describe it, and each blind person looks at it and describes a different thing. The ear feels like a leaf. The trunk feels like a snake. The legs feel like trees. The tucks feel like rocks. And then the king says, all of these are aspects, but when you take them all together, then you can have some apprehension of the whole. Each perspective is right, but none of them capture everything. And when we listen to all the voices that seek to understand God, then maybe we can get an iota of what God really means in the universe and what really God can be perceived as. I was thinking then of some other teachers in more modest ways. And I remembered Joan Needleman, who was the warden in my congregation in Glasgow. Warden similar to Rabbi, also on the ritual committee. So it was sort of a mixed role. He wasn't the senior warden. The senior warden was a dynamic woman named Natalie. But Joe was he was always there. He was always in services. And I don't remember him doing anything in the services except for one thing. Every week, when the rabbi came in, and take notes on this, please. Every week, they would start the service, everybody was sitting out there. The rabbi would be, I don't remember, outside the door. Then as the rabbi came in, Joe would always say, please be upstanding for the rabbi. But he did it every week with such commitment, and he was a wonderful Jew that taught me that simple actions can transform the world. And I was reminded from a text from the Tosefta where it says, if a person does one mitzvah every day without fail, with deep commitment, then they can transform and lead to the messianic fulfillment. And I think Joe is doing that in his simple action. And it teaches us that we don't have to do everything, but we need to do those simple actions and make that a commitment in our lives to transform the world. In a more profound way, I'm reminded of Joan Bordet, who was a very active member of my synagogue in Syracuse. But Joan really built probably the one thing in that synagogue that really brought it out as a place of importance and a place as a model for Judaism. Because she was the head of the caring committee. And her caring committee was amazing. Every time there was someone who was sick, there were meals at the house as long as they needed it. Anytime someone passed away, not only did they provide the meal of consolation, but Joan organized meals for 2 to 3 weeks after the funeral. Because she remembered that, yes, Shiva is a time when people come together, but people are still mourning and in need even afterwards. And everything that she did was built on this idea of creating a caring community, reminding us, Kol Yisrael Arvin Zeh Lezeh. Each one of us is responsible one for another. And so she taught me a model about caring, going far beyond anything I've ever seen anywhere else, but where we can be responsible for another and we can remember that we're building strong communities. On a slightly different note, there was Howie Snyderman, who was the president of the Edmonton Synagogue when I was there. And Howie taught me probably the most important lesson in my rabbinate. Although I think I knew it, but he reminded me of it. Shelley and I announced our engagement, or at least my mother-in-law announced our engagement on Rosh Hashanah, going around to everybody, congratulate me. Why? Oh, the rabbi's marrying my daughter. There were no secrets. So, and we weren't getting married then until July. And so every week following our engagement, Howie would be on the bima giving the president's remark, and without fail, he came up with a spontaneous joke about Shelley, very nice jokes and very polite, but really jokes about weddings and us getting married and all. It was very funny and very spontaneous. And that reminded me how important it is to laugh, how important it is for us to enjoy our Judaism as well as be serious in our spiritual lives. Now, I could go on much longer and with different guides, and I think I'm going to leave it there because I think you get the message. We can learn from people all around us, and there are people all around who want to help us in our spiritual journeys if we listen and learn from them and incorporate what they can teach us into our lives. And all these people have helped make me the rabbi I am. They've helped to make me the Jew I am and the human being I am. And I thank them, and I want to grow and continue to learn, finding new people so that I continue my spiritual journey. And maybe one day when I get to wrestle with myself or with God in a way, maybe I too will warrant, and maybe all of us will warrant, the name of Israel. Tolkien talks about the road going on, right from the door where it began, and challenges us to join that road and follow it if we can. And that's the journey that we're all on, the spiritual journey. And Shelley and I are so happy to be part of the continuing journey of Congregation Beth David. We're so glad to be part of continuing that journey with you, and we look forward to going from strength to strength, but always remembering that with great power comes great responsibility. Shabbat Shalom.